Hey all. So, right here we have the final war of the season against PALO. We've fought them before, but it's been a while. The important thing here, though, is that after our tie on the last war, and because we ended up getting the Tier 2 modifier for our matchup against them, even though I believe they're actually rated in Tier 1, we just got unlucky on the coin toss for the second time in a row. We know that we basically have to win to be in Masters. There's not really any other way. So we are really taking this one seriously. That's why you see me on these first two fights popping an invulnerability for fights that I am not even remotely scared of. These are very simple and we'll go through them. So first up we have this Surfer. This is pretty good placement because anyone can get dangerous on Aggression Fury if you leave them alone long enough. Surfer can be kind of stingy, and Strikeback means he's going to have access to a Special 2 more often than he normally would when you're baiting out Special 1s. And his Special 2 can definitely catch people, especially if you allow his buffs to build up. Hence, we're using Claire in Plague mode again, because that power steal on her L2 means that there is no way we are going to accidentally send him red with it. And of course, Claire also keeps his buffs well under control. That gives her plenty of power. And when his buffs try to come back while buff immunity is up, we're going to get more charges and thus get both more power and more ability to nullify in the future, which gives us even more power. I always run 5 out of 5 Mystic Dispersion, especially with somebody like Claire. It's just a huge help when, as with a lot of Mystics, your Special 2 is a really big deal. Even a rank 3 6-star Surfer would not have been much challenge for Claire there. So then we have Claire herself. This can be kind of tricky, just putting a Mystic on this node with Power Alternator. They can end up throwing a lot of Special 1s, especially if the Defender is running Despair. Those debuffs can add up and actually start doing a fair amount of damage. But that actually makes it a perfect node to charge up Mr. Fantastic on. Because from the start, he's reducing the damage she's doing on those bleeds by 25%, on top of, the 40% from having class advantage. And when I get that stacked, it's going to be up to 75%, and so I should be healing pretty comfortably from these. Of course, because she's a Mystic, she's also going to have access to more power, and so we're very quickly going to turn those Careful Study debuffs into that Careful Study passive. Now we have more power, and we are more likely to get our Special 2 off before the Power Alternator node causes problems. And of course, during all that, we're keeping her power from getting out of control with stacking Suppression and Petrify. So notice that even though this is a 6-star Claire, he rinsed that fast enough that we never actually got around to reversing her power gain. So I'll say flat out that I consider Domino on this particular node, Spite and Powerful from Afar, to be one of the more dangerous possible matchups on the current map. Part of that is because Domino just causes so many problems. Part of it is that the node combination is a little tricky, but we have used Claire here before, and she is quite effective, because Powerful from Afar is an active buff, and therefore Claire can get rid of it with buff immunity. And every time she gains distance from the defender while buff immunity is up, she is going to gain extra charges from them being immune. This makes her really quite good for this, but the important thing is that you do not want to be in bleed mode, because if you are in her Curse of Blood, then when you inflict bleeds on the defender, on Domino, she has a chance to purify them and gain power. And if you let the power get out of control on this node, then she is just going to be lucky all the time, and your abilities are less likely to work. And then powerful from afar is just going to destroy you. And this is going to happen. So, take 2. I honestly, I have no idea why I didn't finish that first combo. Because what we want to do is this. We are now not going to bleed her. We're not going to give her any of that. We're going to be careful. We're going to just eat this block damage. I wasn't even expecting that parry to land. But now we have buff immunity up, and we're using that Mystic Power back boost, so we're going to be able to get back to our Special 2 faster. Even if buff immunity doesn't trigger, we have the Power Steal. This is under control now. You could go to the Incinerate phase, but then you lose access to the Power Steal, and if buff immunity doesn't trigger, you are more likely to end the fight sooner. But I do like the Power Steal here just for maintaining control. After all, it was my plan in the first one, but I don't know. Once I didn't finish that first combo, I'm pretty sure what I was thinking is that I didn't have enough space before her next bar of power to finish another combo without sending her lucky and risking an evade and then getting wrecked from that. So you really want to get that combo where you switch modes out of the way nice and early, like I did this time. You still take a ton of block damage because, Domino is dangerous, and she has those annoying crit fail abilities, but this is pretty safe. Archangel also works here, Warlock also works here, I've seen a couple other options. I think Claire is as safe as any of them, it's just that setup, as with most of the others. And I really dropped the ball in the first time. Anyway, so Mangog is still pretty new, I don't know if I'm even saying that right, but he can definitely cause some problems with that slow passive power gain. Aspect of Evolution gives him extra block penetration and extra attack, and his L2 is basically unevadable. All of those add up to something rather ugly, especially on a Mystic who's probably running Mystic Dispersion. Enter Reed. So I am boosted to the 9s here. Because of my fiasco with Domino, I had to apply another power start, but basically my theory here was, if normally we see this and we send a magic with power start, then I might as well use Reed with a power start, because once I get to that first L2, then I don't have him power locked, but I have the power he gains from hits down by 50%, and the power he gains from abilities down by 80%. That's good enough for me, because then once I get to that second special 2, then I'm actually going to be reversing the power he gains and have knocked down his combat power rate by 75%. As you can see, my heavies are triggering protection, but I wasn't worried about it, in part because this is a 5-star, but it's not even that. Reed does enough damage now. Basically what I was figuring was that once I got his power gain reversed, as you can see here, it's actually going down, especially when he comes in and hits my block because I'm reversing kinetic transference. And I figured that if I needed to get my intercepts to drop protection, then I could at that point when he was locked. Anyway, simple enough. We'll definitely be doing that fight again in the future. Now we have Mr. Fantastic on this Brute Force Limber Mini. I honestly think that he's a terrible placement here. No shade towards PALO. I've seen him a lot, but because he can't evade or auto block until the fight actually gets underway, and either he throws a special or you're dumb enough to use an attacker that places a weakness or something. If you use somebody like Mole Man or Killmonger against him, by the time there's any danger to him, they've already turned him off. Because by the time he threw that first special, as soon as he recovered, I already had True Strike. And when you add to that that he places so many debuffs on you, you are constantly healing. So even if you get hit, you just heal right back up. And Killmonger especially gains power on debuffs, so he is constantly in control this entire fight. So I definitely could have just stuck to my L1, L2 alternating rhythm the entire fight. But, you know, sometimes I like to have fun, and like I said, there's nothing to this fight, so I went for the L3. 6,700 bleed damage a tick, that's not bad. Anyway, like I said, we came into this seriously, but we as an alliance just have some things to solve this war, and we did not solve them in time. So we lost this one. And we are currently sitting 3rd in Platinum 1, and we expect to stay there. We, speaking bluntly, don't think that everyone above us got there completely cleanly, but we kind of suspect that they were good enough at covering their tracks that this is where things will stay. And honestly, with the current setup of, you know, Masters being the top 23, it's hard for me to say that we performed above a Platinum 1 placement. There are people above us that we played better than, but there are probably people below us who played better than us. That's kind of the state of war right now, unfortunately. So, we're probably missing out on those 10k 6-star shards, but it is what it is. On that note, I have gotten some requests to do a season rewards opening. If any of you guys want to see me open my T5CC and talk about, you know, my plans moving forward with the account, I'd be happy to make that video. But I am not planning on opening any 6-star crystals with these shards because I am going fully into horde mode for the next feature. Jabari would be very good for me. I consider her interesting and useful, but she also has an amazing synergy with Tigra, who, if you watch the channel, you know I'm a huge fan of. Odin has good prestige, and I also like him quite a bit, actually, as well as just being great for cosmics, and his pre-fight scale with rarity, so it'd be nice to have a 6-star, even if I don't end up ranking him. Shang-Chi is fantastic, as you probably know if you're on YouTube. Mr. Negative looks like he's significantly more complicated, and it seems like the jury's still out on him, but I suspect that I would have a lot of fun with him, and I do still think he would be good. And we might get Medusa and Voodoo in this next one, and I have a Mystic Gem. I mean, I'm going to take my Doom to rank 3 as soon as I can, but I don't have to awaken him. I would be seriously tempted by a Voodoo, or maybe in the future a Magic. We'll see. Anyway, long story short, I will not be opening any feature 6-star crystals. But let me know what you guys would like to see short of that, and, you know, I read every comment. Alright, well, we're going to enjoy the break. I do have some 7.2 footage that I'm going to be putting out soon, but if there are any war videos in this off-season, it'll probably be compilations, and so they'll be slowing down considerably. Thanks for watching to this point if you're still here. See y'all next time.